Alright, so now that we understand how the internet works, we're going to actually design a website. I'm using Adobe Experience Design, or Adobe XD, but you can use all sorts of different things like Photoshop or Paper. Paper is fine too. So basically the website that we're going to be making is called Phonebook. The idea is that it's going to be like Facebook, except much, much simpler, because all we're going to do is have people's names and phone numbers that we're going to put on the website. So this is going to be like live designing. I haven't actually thought about how this website should look, so I'm just going to do some stuff, and as I do it, I'm going to talk about the decisions that I'm making and why I'm making them, and this will hopefully give you a general idea of how web design works, I guess. So this is my paper. This is my screen. When you do web design, you normally would do a design for a tablet and also a design for phones. It's very important nowadays to make sure that it looks good on all devices. The majority of traffic on most websites comes from mobile devices, so you got to get that right. But we're beginners, so we're just going to forget about other devices, and I'm just going to show you guys how to do this on a rectangular computer screen. So the first thing that we're going to have to do is the navigation bar. So it's going to be the thing that's at the top of the page. And as I do this, let's talk about the idea of external consistency. So when your user comes on your page, you have to remember that they've been to 10,000 other websites before they've come to this one. And they have all these ideas about how websites should work. And one of those is the nav bar. They expect that the navigation bar is going to be at the top of the screen, like not at the bottom. That would throw people off completely. So you got to think always when you're designing, what do people already know, and how do I make this experience as frictionless as possible based on the knowledge that they already have? So, for example, we're probably going to want to put like some logo or something here. This would be a logical place to put the logo for our website, because this is where logos normally are. Like, or if we really wanted to, we could put it in the middle. That would be okay. Like, it's a bit different from most websites, but it's still kind of understandable because people are still going to be looking to the top of the page. They're going to be looking around here at first for a logo. They're not going to see it. They're going to be like, oh, what's this huge thing that's catching my attention? That's where the logo is. So you can break these rules a little bit, but you've just got to acknowledge where people are coming from. So I'm going to be boring and put it in the left-hand corner, the phone book, and I'm just gonna keep this pretty simple. I'm gonna use Roboto as a font because it's a nice font. It's basically the internet font. It's Google's font. When you're using fonts on the internet, you have to consider web fonts. So not everyone's device will have the font that you are using. For example, Helvetica is actually a licensed font. It's available on Macs as part of Macs, but if you want Helvetica on Windows, you have to pay like some extreme amount of money. So not everybody has Helvetica. So you should design your website using what we call web fonts. Roboto is a web font. If you want to see what are web fonts, you can jump to Google and Google fonts. Fonts.google.com. This is where you can get all sorts of different fonts that you can safely use on your website. Yay! Alright, there's other places to get fonts as well, but that's just a good one. Okay, so the phone book. I'm going to do Roboto. What does it look like? I'm going to go with like the classic tech startup kind of vibe. So everything's just going to be thin. That doesn't not really eye-catching. Might make it bold, actually. I don't know. I mean, really, if I was a good designer, I'd probably design like an actual logo. But nah, we're not going to do that. We're just going to have some text. So this is going to be a pretty simple website where I'm thinking that we can pretty much do everything on just the one page. So we probably don't need to have like a whole navigation system. We are probably going to need to include like a privacy policy and a terms of use. Most online platforms will do that. And traditionally, that goes at the bottom of the page as part of the breadcrumbs. So that's what I'm going to make now. So I'm just going to extend this down a bit. And then, yeah, let's make some breadcrumbs. They're called breadcrumbs because they fall to the bottom of the page. And also, breadcrumbs are the links at the bottom of a page that kind of allow you to get everywhere on the website. So it's like, as you go, you're dropping breadcrumbs to find your way back. Wow, ha ha ha, pun.
Stop it. Get some help.
So many different ways to lay this out. I'm gonna make that smaller. Might look small, but remember this is zoomed out, so it's actually going to be a bit more manageable. You should always be thinking about the hierarchy of information when you are designing websites. So what does that mean? Well, that means that the most important stuff should be the biggest stuff. And least important stuff should be the smallest stuff. So your terms of use and your privacy policy are pretty unimportant. They should still be legible, of course, but you don't want to draw attention to them. Whereas your logo, that's pretty important, so you probably want to draw some attention to that. I really should have thought of a color scheme for this website, but I didn't. I'm going to use... I'm just going to do like white, I think. White and this grey, and then, just to keep it simple, some nice accent color. Maybe a green. Neat. Alright, so the phone book. That looks pretty cool. That looks bad. When you're using color, you don't want to make the rookie mistake of just making everything a color. Ah, no. And you should always be thinking about contrast where the text is so that you can actually read the text. So this is dark text on a light background, works well. So when I'm using color on my websites, I really only think of color as a way to accent something. You should always use it purposefully. In fact, a good point is this Google Slides. So when you look at the general kind of layout of the page, it feels like it's got some color there, but when you take a kind of close look, there's not actually very much color. It's really just black and white and some grays, and then this yellow is just used as like an accent color. So that is a good way to use color. I'm going to use this as sort of like my, I don't know, my accent thing. And then I'm going to make some like hero text here that will say, welcome to the phone book. Woo! And then thinking about the hierarchy of information, I want this to be like the biggest thing on the page. This should be the first thing that you see when you come to this website. So therefore, this should be bigger than everything else. In fact, probably a lot bigger. I want this to like take up a significant portion of the page. Welcome to the phone book. Yay. I'm actually liking the circles now because it feels a bit like the circle dial things, the old phones. What would that look like if I made that thin? Nope, bad. Not going to do that. Too thin. Maybe a bit less thin? Maybe leave it bold. Make it black. Maybe we space it out a bit.
3 days later.
Yeah, that's alright. I don't know, it's something. Alright, welcome to the phone book. And then I'm thinking that because this website's going to be pretty simple, here we can just kind of jump straight into the actual phone book. So I'm thinking we have like squares for like each contact. So that would be like a contact. Maybe we have like another contact there. Maybe we have, you know, more contacts and we can just keep scrolling down. And yeah, and then maybe at the bottom we have like some form that you can use to add a new contact. That's kind of what I'm thinking that we would have.
3 days later.
And what might actually be nice is we could add some little icons here. Like that could, how do you describe a name with an icon? I don't know. Probably don't put one there. But here we could put like a little phone icon, which would just add a little bit of, it would make it easier to at a glance see what this is about. Oh, phone number, phone icon, phone number. Yeah. Alright, looking good. You'll notice that I'm not actually doing very much. The key to good design sometimes is just keeping it simple. And you'll also notice that I'm using a lot of space. So white space is incredibly important when you're designing a website. It gives the viewer room to breathe, and it prevents cognitive overload, which is a problem. You don't want to... People have an incredibly small attention span when they look at a website, So you do not want to overload them with information, especially this is an unfamiliar website. You know, sites like Facebook and oh, I don't know what else. Sites like Facebook, I guess, can kind of get away with being a bit more overloading now because people are so familiar with them. But our website cannot do that. So we have to keep it very simple so that people can understand what's going on. All right. And then I might put a little separator in here. Little separator to communicate that whatever is going to be below here is going to be like logically separated from what's at the top here. Whoops. And this can be our form. Normally when you are getting names of people, you will do 2 different boxes. First name, last name. Because a lot of the time you can't assume that a space in someone's name is the difference between their first and last name. People have weird names. So normally you would get them as separate fields, but we're going to be lazy and just get it as one. I mean, really, this app just does this, so we don't need to worry. Yeah, so first name, last name, and then we'll need a submit button. And you know what? I might take this as an opportunity to make our submit button, again, a little bit of a splash of color. This is very unorthodox, by the way. I would probably not do this in a website that I was actually making because this is a bit much. But let's have fun with it. Let's experiment. I mean, it's a bit weird, but I think we can kind of get away with it because when you're looking at this, this is eye-catching. So you're going to be like, okay, form. Oh, there's the submit button. I think we can get away with that move. I mean, it would be nice if our logo was a bit more, but I'm not going to spend time on that. All right, welcome to the phone book. What are we going to do with this footer? We don't really need very much in our footer because this is not a real website. What is this?
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here.
So, terms of use, privacy policy. Maybe we put an inspiring quote for no reason at all, just here. That's nice. What can our quote say? It's like Facebook. But better. That feels accurate. Let's just go with that. It's like Facebook, but better. And then we'll just put it in quotation marks and big text, and we'll italicize it, and that way it will seem legitimate. So if we were going to be expanding this, then we'd probably have some links up here for like different pages on our website. Our breadcrumbs would be a lot more interesting. We'd have like all sorts of different links. Probably have our logo somewhere around here. If you're thinking about how to design a website, the first thing you should always do is look at other websites that are similar to the one that you're going to design. There's so much inspiration out there. The ideas that I always come back to whenever I design a website, it's that external consistency, but also internal consistency. So you have to make sure that each of your pages is kind of consistent with the other pages on your website. You got to make sure that if you start some design style that it is carried throughout the website. So this does a good job of it. We can see there's like, we've kind of got this recurring idea of this light grey border that's around everything. Like for example, if I was to add a shadow on this and not a shadow on everything else, then that would be just like, what? That's weird. So you got to keep internally consistent with everything. If you're going to use color, use it sparingly. That's my next piece of advice. So like, there's not much color on this site, but it's noticeable. It's not overpowering, and it doesn't get in the way of us actually understanding the content of the site. And the last thing is white space. Always use white space. Like, put spaces around everything, because it just makes it so much easier to actually take in what's going on the site. And then hierarchy of information. Make sure that when someone looks at your page, they immediately see the most important thing, and then their attention can trickle down to the least important thing. And that's design. Next up, we're actually going to try to make this layout in HTML and CSS.